Hello and welcome to part one of Alpine Lake. I'm George Coll and continuing a series of alpine country paintings from Rocky Mountain National Park. So today was block in and thin paint, and then at the end of the painting we launched into working on rocks, and the homework is to work on some rocks between session 1 and 2. So I give you instruction on how to do that, and this is the outcome for that, down on the lower left. And there's a lot to do in this painting. I hope we can get it all done in 3 series. So this is part 1 of a 3-part series. Get outside and paint with your friends, and have a community of painters. And if you don't have one, create one. And you'll really benefit from getting critiques. So, with that, enough of this, me talking. Let's get... Hello and good morning again. This is part 1 of Alpine Lake. Nice white bare canvas. We'll start, I hope, a 3-part series. And if it gets too complicated, we'll get into a part 4. But for now, I think we're going to shoot for a part 3. Alpine Lake is in Rocky Mountain National Park. We're going through a series of alpine paintings because of my recent trip up there. And for my Zoom students, I'm going to be gone next week up in Rocky Mountain National Park for my last week up there for my series of studies up there. So part 1 is block in, and what we want to try to do here today is cover this entire canvas with paint that has some sort of a value design, a value color design. So let's think about how we're going to lay that out. When you look at the reference, we have this lake line. That's one good anchor that we can put in. It looks to me like it's right exactly in the center, so I might make it a little bit lower than center. And then if you really look at over to the right, there's a big triangle of dark, which are these bushes. And then we have all these rock designs. And so Jan, last week, I'll tell you, those rocks you did were really nice. So this might be a little bit more comfortable. There's less rocks this week than last week. The other thing is we have a really interesting snowfield design in reflection, and then in the very back we have up here in the little corner we have a little sky. So I'm thinking about all that stuff and where I want to start. But probably, if you really ask me the truth, I start with the simplest thing I can build a foundation on, and I think that would be right below center would be the lake line where the lake shore is. All right, so let's make some mixtures. So I'm going to start with a little bit of transparent oxide red, a little bit of blue, ultra blue, that is, white, more blue, and cleaning off my knife, and have my paper towel in one hand, and I'm going to get myself an instrument to paint with, and I'm going to start with a number 6 Rosemary Long Flat Series 278. And you can see I thoroughly mixed this. So I think that's definitely below center, and then I have some sort of a dark in here. So that's the big dark triangle. I think I have to go out even farther. Then I have a few islands over here in the water. here in the water, I'm sorry. These are the trees here. And then I have some sort of a snow field here. And more snow over here. I may have made this snow field too large. I'm going to shrink it here a little bit. And I'm going to make more sky than I have here in the reference itself. And then I have an alpine snow mountain right over here on the right. And then I have lots of rocks over in this area. I'm going to add more blue to this mixture and a little bit of transparent oxide brown. I'm going to dip my brush into my Gamsol. You can see how that last mixture made it a little pretty darn dark. I think I got a little too happy with this. You know, I think so much of this painting is observation and really seeing what's out there and trying to get that drawing halfway decent. The foundation of painting has a lot to do with drawing skills. And it's not an overnight acquired thing. All right, and then I'm gonna have rocks and shadow. That's what this is right here. And then rocks and light, which will be up in here. And I probably need a brush with a sharper edge to start drawing those rocks out a little bit more. But the rocks are going to be in basically this area in here. So these are rocks in shadow, these are rocks in light. All right, where can we go from here? Well, there's a whole lot of mountain there, and I think we can do something about that. But first, since I have these colors out here, let's see if I can add a little bit of alizarin, a little bit of viridian, and some white. And I'm trying to see if I can make a nice gray. And there is a nice gray. Now, I can look at it and I can say, is that too dark or that's too light? But you got to try it on the canvas, I think, to really get a sense of where it should be. And I'm going to clean this brush. And now I'm filling it up with my gray color. And I'm going to apply it with a thin wash of Gamsol. The advantage of this Gamsol dries quick, and this is a nice stage to be able to do all that stuff. And you can paint over it pretty darn quickly. I think it gets darker as we go higher, and I'm going to add a little bit of that dark mixture we had down here and put some of that up here. I think the reason it went darker, we had a cloud come over. All right, before I get too slap happy here, let's soften some of these edges. I've just got a great big wide, and it kind of evens out the color a little bit too. You see, I'm going over that area where there's a more shadow, rocks and shadow. And I'm going to put that off to the side, and I'm going to add a little bit of blue to this mixture that we had for the gray. Boy, that's too much blue. Need to calm that down. I want to move back to the Alpine Mountains. Darn it, I got too much. I shouldn't put white in at this stage of the painting. Excuse me for doing that. White takes a little too long to dry. And I'm just going to put some of this blue in here. And then I'm going to use some cobalt. And work on the sky here for just a second. One thing you can see here is that everything I put on is really thin. And you can really tell the difference between, you know, this is going to be one shape, this will be another. And I've softened the edges quite a bit. That was manganese I used. I'm sorry, I didn't use cobalt, but cobalt would be great up here also. Manganese blue. All right, I'm going to pick up all this thin stuff I have and get it over to one area. See if it's useful, and it's just too thin to be useful, I think, for me right now. And I'm going to pick that up with a paper towel. And have a clean palette to work on. So I think what I want to do now is change brushes and get something that's a little sharper while I work on Alpine Lake, something with a little bit more of an edge on it. So I'm going to pick this Rosemary Long Flat Series 279. It's got more of an edge on it. I'm going to make a blue and a yellow, ochre. Nice olive color. And this might be too dark, but we shall find out. Just a touch of Gamsol in it. I can already see I screwed up the drawing of my snowfields already, but since it's thin, I can make those corrections. And these trees on the other side are really important because they tell the story that there's the smaller trees say distance. You need these little factors in landscape painting to show what's close and what's far away. And the size of your objects is the way we do that. save that till I make corrections. There's trees up above the snowfield, and I'm going to make my corrections of the snowfield before I make that drawing up there. So let's use some of this olive color in the water. I'll lighten that up just a little bit. Yellow ochre, blue, just a touch of white. Okay, and that even sneaks down into the rock area. I know there's a little bit of an island out here, and we will get to him. But I just went in with the primary color. My first teacher called it the mother color. And this is a little too dark, so I'm just going to lighten it just by using my paper towel, and that will do the trick. Since I've got something with an edge on it, I'm going to put some dark shadows in the rocks. So I'm going to go to ultra blue and transparent oxide brown. And if you notice, my knives are kept very clean. I don't have dried paint on it. Sure helps in mixing and also laying down those sharp little lines. So what I'm doing is putting in some rock designs. I'm looking at the negative space, the darks, and the shadows of the rocks that we see in the foreground. And I'm going to be putting those darks in. Now, am I 100% accurate? No. But I want to try to get the right dark value down and have bigger stones in front and smaller stones as we go farther out. And just remember, if the bottom of rocks are usually dark. And here we go with, that's the light areas. And now I'm going to go into the shadow rocks. More blue, more brown. And we've got rocks that come way over to the right. If you see a big dark area, like right there, put it in there. All right. Let's leave that for now, and I'm checking my time. And I want to go back now and see if I can get that design of the snowfield corrected. So this time I'm getting a Rosemary Classic long flat. It's a little bit stiffer, and it's why I chose that, so you can kind of erase things a little better with a stiffer brush. And maybe I was right in the first place. I should have kept that original design I had. And I have some other snow areas up in here. And taking some time to get my design right. And every once in a while I dip my brush into the Gamsol so I can have a sufficient amount to do some erasing. This was the 17th of July, I think I was up in here. So there's still a lot of snow up in the Rocky Mountain National Park. And there's some more snow fields up in here. I think if we just had one snow field, it would just be too overpowering. You kind of need some supporting snow fields that I'm doing right now up in these upper areas. And then there's some little snow fields right down in here. All right, that'll give me some idea of where this stuff should go. And now I can build around it with that green. So let's go back to blue and some, yellow ochre I think we had. Yellow ochre and blue. Yellow ochre. Makes a nice pine tree green. And we will be doing some of gotta get a little darker on that. I'm gonna add some brown to it. Got too much terp in my, that did it. See the value I just got out of that, that worked. Okay, and before I forget, I do have a nice tree over here I need to think about getting in. And these poor tortured trees they have more growth on one side because of the wind coming off that lake. And there he is. All right, what I'm going to do is work on a rock, okay? So what I want to do is encourage you off camera to work on rocks between now and the next session. And I'll show you how to make a rock. So we'll start with the white, and that's a contaminated white. We're going to make a rock in shadow and a rock in light. Let's clean off this glass and make it clean enough so I can make some appropriate mixtures. Okay, so I'll start with white. And just a little bit of transparent oxide red. Transparent oxide red. Too much. It's easy to go overboard with that stuff. There we go. That's looking pretty good. And let's just pick some up on my knife and go in here and make a nice rock. Okay, that's one that you can do with a knife. Now we're going to make one with a brush. If I have enough here. Let me flatten him out a little bit. And we need to make some gray rocks out there too. And there's how you can make some rocks in light. All right, let's clean my brush and let's make rocks in shadow now. So I'm going to use some Remington gray. I'm going to use some cobalt and some titanium white. And I'm going to go in here and get some rocks made. And now I'll go in with the brush and do it. So you need some with brush and some with knife. So what I like you to do off camera is work on this rock field. And use some of this olive color around the rocks in this area after you get your rocks painted in. And that'll bring us to an end for our block-in phase. So that's part one. It's pretty easy, you know, step by step. This is all thin stuff we're putting on, except these rocks we just put on, they're a little thick. And if they're too thick, just come back and thin them down a little bit. And make some more rocks from that. Okay, if you lose your dark edges, just come back with a knife or a brush with a sharp edge and get those darks in. Okay, that's part one. Thanks so much for coming by for Alpine Lake. And so you got a little homework to work on rocks. All right, with that, I'm going to say thank you for coming by and see you on part two. Bye-bye.